Oh, fuck.
Oh, no.
That looks great.
Let's just do the interview like that.
So it's been a minute since we've actually looked at your face.
It has been a while.
It's so nice to see you.
So the first question, the most important question on nobody's mind. When are we getting a Bhavesh Joshi crossover with you, your pops, Tiger, and Jackie Shroff?
I don't know if Tiger's interested in doing indie films, man. But,
I think he would totally work with you.
to.
He's like one of the nicest guys. I think a Bhavesh Joshi crossover would be interesting.
I mean, I'd love to do anything Bhavesh Joshi, and I'd love to work with Tiger for sure, because he's such a nice person. You know, there are some people, when you speak to them, or even when you just see them, like, interact with people, you're like, there's a warmth that person has, and I want to be around that person.
Yeah.
So he definitely seems to be that kind of guy. In terms of the films, I don't know how tonally, that would kind of work. But yeah, I'd love to put on the suit again, put on the mask again.
You were back working with Vikramaditya Motwane on this.
Yeah.
Was it the same? Was it different?
It was very different because Bhavesh was a very difficult film for us to make. You know, we shot it over a period of a year, and we had at one point a production shut down because we had Eros on board to do it initially, and then Reliance came on board halfway through the film, and it was very challenging, and I was I'm still a very new actor, and Vikram was making this very ambitious film with this new actor, and we were making it for cinemas, and there's always that pressure, I remember even when I came on to your channel to talk about it, I was very skeptical about the box office and stuff, even before the film came out, even though I knew the film was very strong, just because, you see the movies that do well, and then, you have an understanding of what works. I think with AK versus AK, I think Vikram was a bit more liberated, because he was making a film for Netflix. So, so there isn't that pressure of this film has to make an X amount of money. So you can just kind of go wild. And obviously, I was the lead actor in Bhavesh. I just have a small part. So it was just, I kind of come and do my thing and then join this amazing crew for a couple of days and then I leave. And then obviously it was tonally different as well, because in Bhavesh, I was playing a very internal kind of character, and in AK versus AK, it's basically like the absolute opposite of that, where the whole performance is a performance.
Right.
And in Bhavesh, I was just trying to take the performance out of it as much as I possibly could. But for me, probably the best director, one of the best directors in India. So to be able to work with him 2 films in a row is unbelievable for me, really.
So for AK versus AK, one of the things I had said in my review you didn't see the review, right? Or did you?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. One of the things I said was that you were basically playing a caricature of yourself, and Achara's like, I think that's a bit much to say. But having spoken to you, I feel like it was a caricature because it was so big.
I'm just like, okay, listen. We've spoken to you in an interview setting. We've spoken to you via texting and stuff. It's really different who you're talking to and the context and everything. And so I'm like, I feel like that's not really you, or it's an exaggerated version of you, but I'm not going to go so far as to go this is not him at all. So can you sort that out for us?
I don't think I'm like that at all, to be honest.
I didn't think so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to place myself in that situation, and I don't think I would ever behave like that. That's the thing about the film, it's so interesting is because it's just Vikram's vision. You know what it's like we're all, my name is Harsh and my dad's name is Anil, but we're not really like that. We're like that in the context of this film.
Right.
I think Vikram tried to do with my part was he's always known that I've been this guy that's been very pro Anurag's films. I've really loved Anurag's films. And, I've really been very attracted to that kind of cinema and to work with independent and alternative filmmakers, which is, I think, very unusual for a lot of people that are just at the start of their career, especially if they're from film families or whatever, I think he just wanted to take that kind of element of my personality and just go crazy with it. And then he wanted to use that character as a distraction to break the tension of what was happening within the plot of the film.
It worked.
It was very effective.
So that's kind of, I think, what it was when I got the scene for the first time, I was like, I knew I was going to be in the film briefly, and then I got the film, and it was the longest scene in the film. It was 7 pages. and I was like, and I know Vikram, right, because I've worked with him, so I'm like, he's going to want to do this in one take, which he did.
Yeah.
It was very nerve-wracking for me because I know in Bhavesh, I have 2.5 hours and I go through a range of emotions. So even if I have a weaker scene, it doesn't matter as much because you're looking at the whole graph of the character.
Right.
Over here, I'm doing a film with my dad and Anurag, who are these very large personalities who I knew were going to be fantastic in the film. So if I didn't bring my A game in those 10 minutes, it would just be really bad for me, you know? So when I got those scenes, I actually workshopped them for a month.
Wow.
I just wanted to be so comfortable with the material that I could improvise and just be so high on energy, because this character of my Harsh, whatever, in the film, he doesn't really have a filter. He's just like, I need to impress this guy, and I'm going to just go for it.
Yeah.
You know, he's not really thinking in a logical way. And you have those kind of like the subtle nod to the jewel that he's always smoking. And with the conversation that he has with his father on the phone in the car, you kind of can tell that this is a bit of a wonky guy. So I looked a lot at Brad Pitt's character from when he plays the stoner on the couch, and I think True Romance, was it?
Yes.
And I looked at Matthew McConaughey in Fast Times at Richmond High.
I didn't see that one.
Just these really like Dazed and Confused. Richard Linklater, like all of those films, or even Brad Pitt in Burn After Reading, the Joel and Ethan Coen film. You have these, young male actors come in and do these really interesting cameos. And so I wanted to color the part as much as possible. So I really worked on it a lot. And then we went and we did one, like this long 6-7 minute take, and thank God it went okay.
Yeah. Do you think that we'll see a follow-up to Bhavesh Joshi now that it's getting a cult following?
It just completely depends on Vikram. I think it depends on if he finds something that he really wants to say, and the character is then an interesting device to kind of say that with. I don't think he's the kind of director that will just make a sequel for the sake of making a sequel. Bhavesh Joshi was something that was very close to him in terms of it's what he kind of felt about the system, and he really liked the idea of kind of, somebody very ordinary and unremarkable kind of rising to the occasion and being that kind of inspiration.
Right.
So I think if he finds something that he really wants to say through the film, then maybe we'll see it.
I'm sure you've been asked this multiple times already, but what was it like to finally work with your dad? How much pressure was there? How critical or supportive was he when the camera wasn't rolling?
The thing is, he was very busy making the film while I was prepping for the part, because I came in a little later and I was doing my prep separately with my acting coaches and stuff that I work with. So I was very nervous about the scene because it's unlike anything that I've done so far, and it's very comedic, and you have to really engage the people in the room because nobody's really saying anything. He's just putting on this performance and what he's saying is so ridiculous. Like nobody speaks like that, you know. Like this whole insane story that he makes up. So I think he was very nervous. I think my dad was very nervous about how I was going to kind of be in the scene.
Yeah.
And I think then when I did the first take, he was supposed to be responding to me, but he was just like watching me. You know? Yeah, and he's like, what has gotten into this guy? You know? And then after like the first take, he started reacting to my character and what he was doing in the film. But Vikram was just so thrilled with what we did, and it was a very exciting couple of days. You know, I don't think I've ever felt that that's like that satisfied. You know, it was a great experience, and you could just tell being on that set that these people knew that they were doing something very progressive and very brave, and they were just having fun with it, and they weren't bogged down by like the weight of the responsibility. You know, so it was amazing.
Were you more nervous about your dad's reaction or the audience's reaction?
I wasn't even thinking about my dad's reaction, to be honest, because I was just trying to make sure that what I did in rehearsals and what I knew I was capable of doing in the room with my prep, I could execute that day on set. And I only had a couple of takes because we were making this film in like 19 or 20 days, you know, so we had a lot else to shoot that day. And I was like, man, you know, I really hope I don't let Vikram down. And you know, like Anurag and my dad are like watching, you know, so I better like really elevate this material, you know, and I hope that these 10 minutes, I can make people laugh and I can entertain them. And these people see a side to me that they haven't seen in my first two films. And so I was just kind of more in that space.
Did you have any idea that you were going to kind of just become the breakout star of AK versus AK? Because I feel like when the movie came out, everyone was just talking about your performance. Like it was such a surprise.
It's so hard for me to believe that, you know, I don't know why, like a lot of people have said a lot of amazing things. What has really been amazing for me is I've had a lot of, obviously the social media love has been amazing. And why I love, see, eventually I do the films for the people, like for people like you guys, for example, and I'll tell you why is because you guys really get the films. So we can have these conversations and you guys have a deep understanding of the films and you're like entertained by them. And I have the people that write to me on my social media write to me really well, about why they liked it, and I think that's why I do the films, to engage in those conversations. So that's been really, really kept me going. And I think that all of that hard work that I kind of put into my first two films has kind of somehow found its way into this 10-minute cameo. It's really funny how the world works. But I had a lot of people from the industry call me. Vicky Kaushal called me, which was amazing.
Wow.
I had Alia and Ranbir messaged me, and so many people like Ram Madhwani, the director. Shah Rukh Khan called my dad.
What?
Which was insane.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which he loved the film and to talk about the scene and I can't believe it. I'm actually stunned because when you're doing it, you're like, I'm going on the set for 3 days, this is not my film at all, So it's just been very sweet and it's just been very generous for these people who I'm sure have very busy lives, and they don't need to find my number and reach out to me and call me. And I think that's really meant a lot to me. And the critics have been very kind, which has been really great, But this is very much just something that is a small thing. And now I'm just really looking forward to what's to come,
Right. Ashish Chanchalani reached out to you too.
Yeah, Ashish reached out to me. So I messaged Ashish back, and Ashish is a big fan of Bhavesh, like you and I spoke about earlier. So we talked about that. And I think, what's really cool, Jaby, is because of AK, so many people have gone back to Bhavesh.
That's cool.
I feel very grateful that people are watching the films now.
Yeah.
Was it a hard choice at all to be for your family to want to do AK versus AK, or what was the whole process of getting involved?
Well, I think because I did Bhavesh with Vikram, and because Dad kind of was kind of interacting with him over that period briefly, they kind of formed a relationship, and I think that kind of made it easier because I've always been very close with. I've always loved Vikram and Anurag. I love those guys. I love the films that they do. And I've always had one foot very much in that realm of cinema. So I think that kind of brought Dad a bit closer to it, as opposed to Vikram just coming in one day with the script. And I think that kind of opened him up to the idea. I obviously would do anything for Vikram. So I was ready to I mean, he's a director that I would just not even ask for the script. I think it was really great for Sonam to be a part of it and, for her to kind of drop her guard and do it. And I always say this is my dad's been an actor for 4 decades. And he has sacrificed absolutely everything to entertain, worked really, really hard. Sonam and I are actors, and this will always be the first film that we all did together, right?
Yeah.
We're never going to be able to change that. We can do other films, more films together. But the first film that we always did together would be AK versus AK. And I can't be more proud of, the film and the fact that is our first film together. And it's directed by Vikram and Anurag is in it. And it's just so progressive, people would expect us to do some family drama or something, but this is so different and
an alternative family drama.
Until you said that, I didn't really know what you meant, and now it's crystallized. I'm like, oh yeah, when you juxtapose it like that, it makes so much sense why it's progressive and it's unusual, because a family drama would be the first place to go. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
one of those, those melodramas.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that this is it. And look, Jaby, Netflix and the beautiful thing about these platforms is it releases everywhere at the same time, So we are not just making the film for people in our country. We're making the film for you guys. We're making the film for everybody. And you guys are culturally different from us. Obviously, your taste and sensibilities and your exposure is different. Danny Boyle saw the film, by the way. He loved it. And I think that's the thing with Indian theatrical sometimes, is you get a bit limited because it's only releasing initially in cinemas in India. And that is where the money is coming back from. For Netflix, they don't really, it's not as stringent as that.
Right.
And I think even Bhavesh would have greatly benefited from being a Netflix original because you have the support of the producers. You're not limited by show timings. You're not limited by intermissions. You're not limited by censorship. You're not limited by opening box office day numbers. And I've always believed that the domestic box office collection of a film doesn't determine its quality. It determines how curious people are to see the film. And those are two very, 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 very different things.
I have a question about the ending. There seems to be a debate as to what this ending was about in AK versus AK. During the credit sequence, there was an award given to Anil Kapoor for like best actor for a movie. Was the movie he was getting an award for the thing being shot the entire time that we were watching through AK versus AK, or was it a subsequent film made after Anurag Kashyap goes to jail?
No, it's I believe it's for the film that Yogita directed. The girl directed in the film.
Yeah. So it's a different movie, or it's the whole saga that we just
No, it's
watched?
the film that the girl was shooting.
The entire time.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a little confusing to me, and I had a criticism of that in the review of it, which I won't go into. but there was like some debate in the comments as to whether it was like a separate film that the audience just doesn't watch, like because there was confusion as to what is Once a Time in Bollywood, whether it was watching Anil Kapoor look for his daughter, or whether it was a completely different story that we never saw.
I think it was just that dad and Yogita get together and they kind of set Anurag up.
Yeah.
And then she kind of films it. But I will since this film is so confusing, I'm gonna ask Vikram about that. I think it's the film that Yogita directed with the film that she and my dad agreed to do that Anurag thought was his film.
Yeah.
That gets taken over.
I would love to know. From him, because I want to end that debate once and for all.
But speaking of like working with your dad and Anurag, like were there any gems that you picked up from just being on set and working with them?
I think my dad's reached a point where it's so easy for him to switch on and off because of the experience, I think I'm so new to it that I have to completely submerge myself, But he can just kind of like switch on and off, He's doing that intense monologue on the ground where he's completely broken. Do you remember that scene where he's crying on the street and Anurag comes and he's like, did you get the shot? So he did that scene, and I was walking from the trailer to the location, and he was walking past me, and Vikram looked at me and he said, did you see that? I said, no. And then he just smiled because obviously he knew that they had something very incredible scene. And I had to go in the car after that and scream in South, which was pretty ridiculous. But what's interesting is I improvised a lot of my lines actually in that monologue. So,
I was wondering about that.
The whole Tony Montana cocaine Scarface thing wasn't in the script. The whole Bhavesh Joshi 2 thing wasn't in the script. That was a line that I wrote when we were doing table reads. So, like that whole Anurag Kashyap makes grey films, deep grey. That wasn't in the script, and so there was a bunch of stuff that wasn't in the script. A lot of it was in the script, but then there was some like bits and pieces that I kind of added to it, because I was so comfortable with what was on the page that I could just kind of add it and make it this kind of like this big thing. And it's so difficult for me to watch that scene because I'm not like that at all, So I'm like, who is this person?
I was going to ask you about that. Like, how did you feel about the end result of your performance? Because like you just said, it was difficult to watch. So what was your feeling afterwards after finally seeing it?
Well, I was just kind of going off Vikram's reaction after the scenes had been shot, and he was very, very thrilled with it. Vikram told me it's his favorite scene in the film, and for everybody that knows Vikram, he's a very difficult guy to please. So
this is my last question, dude. Do you have any favorite films from 2020 that you wanted to like shout out, and what films are you looking forward to in 2021? Because I know you're a film buff.
I really liked this film called The Souvenir. It stars Tilda Swinton and her daughter. It's her daughter's first film as an actress.
Okay.
It's directed by this British director called Joanna Hogg. It was one of the best films that I saw last year. And The Sound of Metal with Riz Ahmed, who is a British Pakistani actor who has done the show The Night Off. Really, really fantastic film. I think Riz is probably going to be nominated for an Oscar this year. I think that's how good he was. He was unbelievable. That's the level of performance that one aspires to reach. So I think The Souvenir, I think The Sound of Metal. There's this great show on Amazon called Too Old to Die Young. It's from the director of Drive. Which is the Ryan Gosling film, which I'm sure you guys have seen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Miles Teller, who plays the drummer in Whiplash, is in Too Old to Die Young. So if you like the director of Drive and you like that neon-soaked, very heavy on treatment, very silent kind of mood piece, Too Old to Die Young is great. And I've just watched so much that I don't even remember what I've seen.
That's kind of where we get to sometimes, because we watch and review so many things. Like, it's just in your head for that moment that you see it, and then afterwards you're like, wait, what was it?
Do you like Sofia Coppola's films? Do you like Lost in Translation?
I've really only watched
Sometimes.
I've only watched Lost in Translation. That's the only one I've seen. But I liked that movie.
You should watch this film called Somewhere. It's really one of my favorite films. What is your favorite? Like, do you guys like love stories? Do you like love stories?
I do.
Well, my favorite film of all time, you just mentioned it a second ago. My favorite film of all time is Whiplash. That's like
Whiplash.
To me,
Okay.
Yeah, to me, that's
so you like yeah.
It just really resonated with me because of the message of sacrifice and that uphill battle to get to the greatest aspiration in your own journey. Like, it just resonated with me in a very profound way.
Yeah.
And it didn't hold back at all. And for it being what's his name's first movie, I was thoroughly impressed.
Damien Chazelle.
Yeah, Damien Chazelle. Yeah. And I got to work with the director you mentioned a second ago, the director of Drive. I got to work with him for a couple of days, just like running an audition. But it was interesting to just to kind of watch him do his thing.
I have a comedy actually coming out later this year. I'll just tell you guys before I go.
Okay.
It comes out in May. I can't tell you too much about the details of it because I'm contractually bound, but it's actually from the director of The Man Who Feels No Pain. Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota, which is interesting because people keep asking for that Bhavesh crossover.
Yeah.
So I did a film with him. It's a comedy and it should be out in May. It's probably be like a 75 minute feature. I think it'll be on Netflix. And then I'm in actually Rajasthan right now shooting a drama thriller.
Oh.
So which should hopefully be out in the fall.
Okay.
Wow, you guys have fast turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, I think now with digital and stuff, it's a lot quicker, you know. So those are the two films that I have kind of coming out this year, and I hope people like them.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Ashish Chanchalani again and see if we can get some kind of like three-way conversation going, because I think it'd be a lot of fun to just talk about film with
like a film club.
Like a film club, yeah. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for doing this, man. It's always good to talk to you, and hopefully we'll get to hang out soon once the restrictions let up. We can all like just
once the US is no longer like a plague on the world, because right now everyone's all like, everyone's welcome except you, USA, you stay home.
I have to take a flight to LA at some point, so I'll probably see you guys soon.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was great to be back on the channel, and it's just, I'm so happy that you guys like the film and that everybody's loving the film, and I think this is a really exciting year. This is going to be a really exciting year, and let's just leave last year behind, man. Let's just leave all of that stuff behind. A lot of it wasn't in our control, and what is in our control is to be kind to each other and to be good human beings and just live and let live, you know. So yeah, it was great to be back, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, I'll talk to you soon, man. Have a good one.
Care.